welcome to Sisu Slay by Horizon, a podcast where we untangle and make sense of how you can navigate Finland as an international professional through stories of building aligned career paths, successful integration, and experts who can give you a peek behind the structures of Finnish life and work. And today, we are diving into what software engineering truly looks like in a modern tech and product companies. Does anyone hire developers anymore? And with the rise of AI and what you can do as a tech talent to match the current and future market. And here, helping us to dig into all of this, we have Dups Wijayawardana, Chief Impossible Officer at Supermetrics. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today, Dups.
Thank you very much for having me. It is my pleasure to be here. Now, whether I can give you all of the information that you want, now that's a different question and a problem, but let's see how I do.
It's going to be a journey, and we will discover and appreciate the treasures we find. But yeah, let's before we hop into all of the good insights, I'd love to hear the short origin story of how you got into tech in the first place and ended up becoming the Chief Impossible Officer at a major SaaS company in Finland.
You do realize no origin story is ever simple or ever short, unfortunately. In terms of getting into tech, I've always been interested in technology and obviously programming since I was a little kid. So I'm old, so I did all of that in the 80s. And when I went to university in the early 90s, there was no such thing as the web or anything like that. But I worked at a radio station. And I had a show on the radio station, but one of the things about this radio station was that we had 10,000 CDs and albums, and we had to find these CDs, and we had printed up sheets of papers, so you would look it up. And the reason we had to find these CDs and record everything is that in Canada, which is where I'm from, CanCon requires you to write out the song that you played and the artist, because you need to play 30% CanCon every hour, or at least you try. And so this was important. And I got so tired of looking for these CDs that I ended up piecing together this absolutely nonsensical little program that went and searched this and find a CD. It was to solve a problem for me. But then in the next few years, the web came around and things changed again. And I learned that I never went to school to learn programming. But I decided this was what I wanted to do. And I also wanted to work in video games. So then I ended up really figuring out how to do this and ended up at a video game company called BioWare. And from there, stops and starts, different things. I also had my own startup, learned everything that you should and should not do, and especially how not to be a CEO or how to screw things up. But also, you just realize that actually you can do a lot of different things that you put your mind to it. And after we sold that, I was helping some friends. And then finally, I got a call from friends of mine here in Finland, because I used to work for a company called MySQL, which was started out by Finnish founders here, or at least many of the founding team was from Finland. So they called me up and said, hey, we're thinking of investing in this company called Supermetrics. And I'd never heard about Supermetrics. And they wanted me to come out and do a tech due diligence on the company. I came out, I did the due diligence, and I really liked the founder, Mikael. I said, hey, you're a better CEO than I ever was. And also, the company was at that point, actually, when I came for the interview, not the interview, but when I came to do the due diligence, I think we were only 5 people maybe. And by the time I moved here, we were 10. I think I was the 10th, or something like that. And of course, that's the way these things go. So I've been an immigrant many times in my life. So this is now the 3rd or 4th time that I'm considered an immigrant. So I can truly understand what it feels like for those who, I don't know if I can ever understand what it feels like for specific people, but I know what it feels like for me in terms of going to a new culture and new country.
Yeah, but that's everyone has their own journey, nevertheless.
Absolutely.
So no.
See, I told you it was never short, nor was it.
We don't mind it. We love the long story, actually. Yes. And right now, now you've been in tech for a very, very long time. That sounded kind of wrong, but
I'm old. I got it. It's okay.
You've been in tech for a good amount of time at this point. So what's still keeping you in tech right now? Anything you're especially excited or interested in the current or potential future developments?
Well, the original job I came for in Supermetrics was to be the CTO, and that was to help grow the engineering team and everything else. These days, I work with the former founder of the company, so Mikhail again, and a very small team doing research and development into new things, especially into getting our products into different parts of the AI ecosystem. That is what I do today. And what keeps me interested in technology? Why wouldn't you be interested in technology? It's so much fun. There's stuff that you can do. You can make dreams, the thing that you dreamt about the night before, you can make it a reality. And today, you don't have to spend weeks learning how to code. You can actually get some of that stuff going as fast as possible and seeing whether it's the right thing, trying to figure out how to make the outcome happen. And solving problems, all sorts of things that you can do with technology. Today I'm like a kid in a candy store. The world has opened up even further for me than it ever has. And I would hope that it's doing that for others.
Yeah, it's very true. It's kind of wild, like how rapid the cycles are becoming.
Absolutely.
And like actually building something and it's like snap and that's like it's done.
And I should say, I'm also these days in Finland a venture partner at OpenOcean, which is one of the best VC firms here in Finland, as well as in Europe. It's actually a European venture capital firm. And as part of that, one of my jobs is basically to talk to amazing startups who are building amazing things. And they're able to get so much further and faster than I ever was 20 years ago, 5 years ago even. It's amazing.
Yeah, truly. Hey, let's get into the what does engineering actually look like behind the scenes? Because we have a lot of juniors, fresh graduates, people who've never worked in a product or SaaS company, at least in a small market like Finland, because I mean it's a tiny country. So if you can share, like, kind of with through your experience, like, what does a typical SaaS or software product company look like with the, like, if you look at like how the engineering organization is like built?
Sure. And I think that is changing quite rapidly, especially with the advent of the different technologies that are coming into play. I would not necessarily build an engineering team like I did 5 years ago, for example. So, and I'm not entirely sure I have all the answers on how you would do it, and that is changing pretty rapidly. So, how it looks like, it really depends on the size of the company. So if you're going to go to a 10-person startup, guess what? You're going to be doing everything from answering the door, going to an event, doing customer support, and everything else. And then as the company grows, you have to put in engineering is like anything else, which is a shared work. So imagine you're building a house and you're building a room inside of a house and you have 5 people building that room. If you can imagine 5 people running around with hammers all the time and hitting nails, if you don't have a process in place, you're going to end up with a room that doesn't quite look like the room that you intended. And that is what we do as a company, as a development team, as a product team. We come up with a blueprint of what we want to build, and then you go out there and you build it. So as a company grows, you put in more and more structure. Now that structure typically looks like the following, which is you have a product manager. And these roles, by the way, are changing, and I can go into that. So you have a product manager, you have an engineering manager or engineering lead, like a person who is really responsible for how the engineering is going to get done, potentially. You might have a designer on that team who's designing. It depends on the kind of product you're building, of course. And then, of course, the product manager is kind of overall responsible to figure out why you're doing it. Is this the right thing? Working with the trying to figure out all the little pieces. Now, this is what's called the holy product trio: the product manager, the engineering manager or engineering lead, and your designer. And if you have all 3 of those things, then typically, and in a good company, you will own the space that you want to do. So your team of 3 plus then multiple different types of engineers will, of course, build the thing you're doing, and you get deployed onto different stuff. That's what it looks like as you scale, or what it used to look like as you scaled.
So how about the future then? Like, how is it shifting now?
Well, this is part of something that I am not entirely certain I can answer and give a specific direction. What I do see is that product managers themselves are being asked to be able to do the engineering task because AI can actually do that.
Wow.
And this creates a rather interesting dynamic because if, for example, you ask me, go build a shopping cart system. Right? And you design that shopping cart system. You're the product manager, you do your customer research and you say the shopping cart system has to have 3 steps, it has to look like this, we're selling this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then the engineering manager and the designer have to take that information and try to translate that into what it looks like. And you might spend, let's say, 2 months trying to get this perfectly right. And then you go and put it in front of a customer and you go, actually, they didn't like that. Now you got to go back and reiterate and iterate and iterate, and that's the cycle that you go through. Now suddenly the product manager goes, okay, I've done the research. What I can do is, here's a mock-up, here's a POC, all the way through a functional POC, right? Not just something in Figma, but something that actually works, takes data, runs the whole way through. You put that in front of a customer and they go, yeah, that doesn't quite work out. You wasted how much time? Maybe a day? Yeah. Okay, that's not that bad. So you can iterate and iterate very fast and then give, in the end, you still need to have good code. You can't just put crap out there. That's unsecure and not good. And so then the job of the engineering manager and the engineering lead changes. And the job of the designer changes because the whole process is so different. I think a meme that I saw was, the start was, you were building a car, so you put the 4 wheels in a bed of the car, and then you put the outside, and then right? Now you're basically going, here's all the pieces, create this futuristic-looking car, and then refine down to the car that you actually want. You're still doing, you're going to end up with the same thing. You're going to hack
a couple of mirrors off, and...
Yeah, but you're getting at it in a different way, and potentially you're getting at it faster, and it depends on the processes that you put in place. Do we know exactly all those processes? We're testing ourselves. We're testing out different ways of working. We're testing out how we actually use these new tools like Claude and Cursor and all those things. And they themselves are changing so fast.
Yeah, it's like the rapid, iteration, development, everything's changing, everything's shifting. This was new to me though, this whole product manager might have to actually create I don't know if you call it an MVP, but kind of like a prototype.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
it's really interesting is that if you look at product manager roles, I think someone told me that Google, for example, will not hire you today as a product manager if you cannot quote unquote vibe code, which, as the tools get more and more complex and more able, it's not vibe coding anymore. Yeah. You really are, in some cases, can produce very production oriented code. So you're not even going to get hired at Google these days, I don't think, unless you can use these tools.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And I actually look back about 30 years ago. This is analogous to me around about 1998, 99, 2000, because there we went from on computer to web computing, and it was a similar... You had to learn a different paradigm of working. And what I call that product trio, that SaaS product trio that we're talking about, that is very common in most places, that's only been around for about 15, 20 years maybe. Right?
And the previous era was from the 60s, 70s?
Well, more like 80s, right? And then, so we think it's really long, and when we talk about, this is not how it's traditionally done, you're sitting there going, but actually 30 years ago you didn't traditionally have any of this stuff.
What is tradition?
What is tradition? Exactly.
Super interesting. This is a really great segue to the next kind of overall topic, which is the future of software development. What might it look like? We're hypothesizing here, so
truly hypothesizing, because I don't really know.
I wish I had a crystal ball. It would be great. But now that we've already started painting a picture of what the future might look like, let's address the elephant in the room. Like, there's like AI, as we already discussed. There's layoffs because roles are changing, companies are becoming leaner, market uncertainty also in this day and age. So what do you think? Is it still worth becoming a developer today?
I think the answer is always yes. I really do. I think it really depends on what you want to do in life. And if you want to create things and put things out there into the world that people use, and it is technology based, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on a computer, wherever it is going to be, then that is always going to be something that we as a society need, 100%. And I think learning about computing and what makes a computer and why these machines actually can help us be better and be faster and be more efficient, be a better version of humanity, if you will, because that's what your job is, to create the better version of humanity, then I think yes. Now, what you're actually specifically asking, I think, is it going to be the same developer that was there 5 years ago? No, I don't think so. Now, again, A, I don't give advice, and B, anything I say is going to have to be taken with a grain of salt. So prognostication is this is a life of dreams, right? So imagine if you have the ability to create whatever you want, then what kind of things can you actually do with that? And my personal belief is that being able to give more and more tools to more and more people creates the ability for diversity of thought and diversity of creation. There are now today more developers, more programmers than there ever was 30 years ago. And because of that, we see many more companies, many more ideas, many more things that humans can do. Imagine if you now could say, I can create an application for my grandmother who cannot see very well and is at a home to communicate with X, Y, and Z, or make sure that she has the right pills, but it's such a niche piece of software that nobody's going to go build it.
It's not like a commercial super hit.
Exactly, but now you can go do it. But the most amazing thing about all this is you say, well, then what's the point? What's the role of a developer? Well, all these systems need underlying systems. And they still need to be coded. They still need to be created. There are still so you might no longer be, dotting the I's in a really big code file, but you might be creating systems for groups of developers to work with the AI. That thing about the room in a house, that is still true. So if I now have 5 people working on a room now, but instead of using hammers, they're using AI, which sometimes is in itself is basically a statistical system that kind of goes probabilistically crazy. You're still going to get crazy stuff. You might get it faster, but you're still going to get crazy stuff. And you still have to work together to get the outcome. So there's systems that you need to build, right? So there's always things to be built, and our imaginations are finite. Well, no, our imagination is infinite, but our diversity of thought allows it to be truly infinite. So as in, I may not be able to think of the great thing, but 5 of us together from different backgrounds will be able to think of something most amazing. And that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
That's a very long answer. I'm so sorry.
No, don't apologize. It was awesome. And I also really loved the more philosophical kind of a dimension of why should you become a developer still in the midst of all of this where we don't actually know what it's going to look like in 10 years, let's say. Not for certain at least, but if you have this I do want to build something and I want to build it through tech or as tech based, it's still worth it because you're still going to get the systems thinking behind
Another way to look at it is when in the early days of computing, you had to know how to move pieces of memory from one memory register to another in order to actually make the computer do something. That changed, that got abstracted out so that it was easier to write code in English. That changed, and I'm being very high level. And then that changed again into the web. Now you're not even thinking about the computer, you're thinking about the browser. Even on the browser, you had to know how the browser worked. Now you don't even need to know how the browser worked. There's language. The languages basically abstract all of these things away. You don't need to know any of those things. Why do we keep doing that? The reason we keep doing that is so that we can make people faster at getting to the outcome. And every step of abstraction has caused the same level of anxiety and problems.
Yeah. I love that, actually. I think it's very informative. It gives you a lot of food for thought. Now I have some, theoretically quicker questions. We shall see about it. But, yeah, a little bit of maybe rapid fire, maybe slower. In your perspective, has AI actually changed the way your teams work? Not in theory, but in practice.
100%. So since I stopped being a CTO and gave up actually running the engineering department at Supermetrics, it is now being run far better by the rest of the team. We created this smaller team just to work just with AI. So we moved away. The spec was to the team, hey, use only AI to code. We wanted to stress test how far you could go with it. And we ourselves now work very differently. I definitely work very differently. I don't think I've written many lines of code in the last year.
Do you still review your code, or the AI code? Do you actually go line to line?
Bit of both, right? And it changes. Even in the last couple of months, I've noticed a change again in Claude Code. So, what was possible a year ago, what is now superseded by what is possible today. And while I don't think that there is going to be a plateau to the improvements of certain things, again, our creativity of being able to try to get to the end outcome, I think we will still see a fair bit of advancement over the next couple of years.
Yeah. What skills do you think are becoming more valuable because of AI?
I think being able to be creative, think outside the box, these have always been sought after skills, but you could have been someone who thought really outside of the box and was creative, but had no way of making it actionable because you didn't have the knowledge. Now you have tools which, they may not be perfect, they may not give you, you're not going to, no matter what anyone out there says, you're not going to be able to vibe code a $1 million startup just yet in an hour or 2 hours. You still need knowledge. You need a lot more knowledge than that, unfortunately, and maybe fortunately in some cases. But for sure, if you that creative, the ability to laterally think is, it's an amazing skill to have. And if you can practice that, if you have a great imagination, having that imagination, being well-rounded and read, I think we are coming to the age of the generalist.
Ooh, right? So actually, having a bit of a more diverse career path might be a strength at this point.
I think it's always a strength, personally. And I think humanities are a good thing. I'm a big fan of the humanities. So learning all of those things, reading, getting into the why of the things that we do is very important. You talk about philosophy, but when you actually build a product and how people use it, having that knowledge and being able to understand how to articulate that to the AIs to go build it, this is important, right? So I think all of these are very important.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's jump on to the other side of the table. What skills are becoming less valuable faster than people expect, if there are any?
I think, how should I answer this? It's hard to put into words. If you want a job where you go every day and press a button, like the Homer type button, keep the nuclear plant going, those kind of jobs are definitely going away. So more and more, the companies are asking for you to think about how do you automate the job that you have. not necessarily to automate you out of a job, though I would actually argue that I've always wanted to automate myself out of a job because then I can do other things. And I'm not saying scratch that, but basically the idea is the companies are asking you to think about what you do and make yourself more efficient and make yourself make yourself faster and better.
So there's kind of like self-leadership and like innovation in your own kind of like track.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're really looking for. And I think that's what leaders always look for that. But now, but in the past, you know, I can say to you, hey, can you please automate that? But then they'll be like, oh, I don't have time from the development team over there, and so and so doesn't have time. Right. Well, actually, now you have some of the tools.
Yeah.
So self-learning, and you can say, well, I don't. And this is an interesting thing. I you know, people say, well, what does it mean? The AIs are going to think for me. Actually, you should stop that. That's actually really bad. Don't let something else think for you. Instead, ask it questions to teach you. If, for example, you ask it to correct the grammar, maybe you should ask it what it changed and why, so you can learn from it. Pretty much everybody now has literally the world's best teachers for free sitting there. Like, you could say you had the world's internet knowledge base before in Wikipedia, but how many actually went and tried to get Wikipedia into your head? Nobody. So, but now you can actually use it to teach. People say, oh, well, wait a second, you know, how useful are junior developers? Hang on a second. You've got something that you can actually ask questions. Why is this piece of code better than this piece of code? Why did you suggest that?
That is actually a perfect bridge to the next one, because like the next question is, do you think the bar for junior developers is permanently higher now? And what does like entry level even mean in 2026?
This is a very good question that I don't know if I'm going to have a good answer for, because it's the worst part of answering these questions is I am not the one who is on the other end and having to face the mountain of all of the jobs, the applications you need to do, and all of those things. I'm not, and I think I can sit here and I can.
You are
wax
more
poetic,
in
but
the behind the scenes.
Correct, and I can wax poetic, but the truth is, it's very difficult for me to see into that. But let me try to answer this. So, as an entry-level software developer who's coming in, similar to about 30 years ago, where you might not have been a great programmer in C, but you had skills in web programming, then I think in the next year and a half, the ability for you to use tools like Claude and Cursor, understand how they work, how their probabilistic machines work, how do you work together with other people who are using it, and get to the outcome that you want better than other people, that in itself is a skill. And learning that will make you probably better than even the senior developers at different organizations, because they may not even know that. And then the other parts, which is, how does this piece of code work and that piece of code work? You know what? Learn design patterns. Learn the concepts of coding. Understand why certain patterns are a good idea and a bad idea, because then you can actually see what the AI is doing and go, that wasn't quite right. And then you can ask it to interrogate itself, because you know something to ask it. That looks like you're going into an infinite loop. Claude, are you going to go into an infinite loop by any chance?
Fantastic. And like, if someone, kind of continuing in this same thread, if someone is a junior developer struggling to get hired right now, what is one thing they should do immediately? And this can be a repetition of what you just said. What should they do immediately to improve their chances of getting hired? And is that different from senior or mid-level?
I don't know if when you're being hired, when you're applying for jobs, it's very difficult. I think, we see a resume. We don't know the person behind the resume, and we may get a portfolio of work. We do code tests and challenges, obviously, and these are changing as time goes on. Different companies have different things that they're looking for, obviously, and I think how to stand out is going to become very much about your skill levels in the technologies of today, and the technologies of today are again AI. And that's one of the key criteria.
Yeah. So, okay. So in, again, like kind of continuing, this like sort of like growing yourself or like participating in active self-development. Some people tend to just like kind of be able to unstuck themselves a little bit easier than others. So in your experience, like if you've ever perceived this in people, this like tendency to get stuck or not stuck, like what separates engineers who grow fast from those who get stuck?
Curiosity. That is ultimately the thing that gets you in the door, that makes people want to talk to you. You're curious. You want to learn about yourself, the people around you, the thing that you're building, why you're there. I think curiosity is an underrated, what's the word?
A curiosity. Like a trait or...
Trait, yes. Curiosity is an underrated trait, for sure. And I would think that today, especially when things are so not set in stone, and because what I described about the company of 5 years ago still exists. And it's and in many ways, you're still going to be hired for those kind of jobs. That's not going to go away that fast. Like nothing changes that fast. You know, when you're in the AI bubble, you think everyone is using AI, and actually that's not the case. So you have to be very careful to think about that. But curiosity is the want to learn, the want to strive and be better, and the ones who take a chance and try something new. And, you know, it's okay if you fall. It's okay. Like falling and failing, that's normal every day. Think of yourself as a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old, in order to run, you have to fall a few times, hurt the knees, cry out loud, and then you figure out, oh yeah, my knee bends this way.
Discovery of a lifetime, literally, for a toddler. On that, like, what's is it curiosity, or is there another green flag you wish more candidates knew about? Like for you?
Yeah, I don't actively hire engineers anymore, really, at Supermetrics, so I'm not entirely sure exactly how our process currently goes. So I'm going to be very upfront about that.
Very generalist about this.
But recently, we were building out our team of we call it the Impossible Mission Force, basically, kind of creative minds that can go into different parts of our business and try to help and understand and think about it. And there we were looking for curiosity. We were looking for people who weren't afraid of the AI tools, people who had done different things in their life that they could actually think about different ways of thinking. Even to the event of, what kind of hobbies did they have, and were they passionate about their hobbies? So passion is important, right? And then, of course, your own personality. You bring something to the company, to the team. And I think a good good hiring manager always should look at the totality of you as a person. Right? It's not just, we're not going to extract certain pieces of work out of you and then, dry you out like a husk and throw you out there, right? That's not how a company works. Companies are built with people. And ultimately, we want you to grow, and showing that growth mindset, being able to question and challenge. And again, I'm talking from a startup perspective as well, a scale-up perspective. That is very different if you go to a different type of company.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. And I love hearing about this kind of parallel to our last week's episode where we talked about recruitment behind the scenes. And one of the best bets is to kind of be you. Like, be curious and be you. And it's kind of very validating hearing that. This is kind of like, seems to be a bit of a universal thing of like, why not be you and wildly passionate about the things that you actually care about?
I think that's the most important thing you can do in life. Frankly, be passionate.
Yeah. So we do have a small audience here today, and these questions we might have already addressed in part or fully, but I'm going to ask them anyways, and
Sure.
we'll go through. They're only 2, so it's not going to be very long. So the first question comes from Mac. What kind of projects should people early in their career have to stand out when applying for jobs? And we can think about this from a developer point of view if you want.
I think it's really important that you build stuff and get them out there. GitHub is your GitHub profile is going to be a very wonderful thing. Writing about the work that you do. Showing understanding of the code that you're writing, the problem that you're solving, how the code and the problem work together. One of the problems that vibe coding or AI coding or any of these things, and has been the case for, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, however long programming has been around at this point, is that when a program is used, people think you write the program, you keep maintaining it, and you solve the bugs, and that's it. That's not how it actually works. So ultimately, you write a program, and it might be 3 people using it. Great. That's fantastic. You're going to end up with 100 people using it. You have to rewrite that program to fit the fact that there's 100 people using it. If it's 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million, now you're rewriting that program again and again. And you have to understand what is called scaling. And scaling requires you to think outside of the box to scale something. It is not the case that we throw money at the problem. And you need to understand architectures, you need to understand how these things get deployed. And actually, nowadays, I would actually say all engineers should learn what has been called SRE, site reliable engineering, reliability engineering, DevOps, so sysadmin work, anything that is looking at the actual actually the term these days is platform engineering. So basically how these things get deployed onto the networks and then gone through. So you need to learn your Kubernetes, you need to learn how networks connect to the thing that you've built. Because no matter what you've actually put together, you got to put it out there. It has to be secure. Yeah. And that's the last thing, I think, if you can show that you understand security and what that actually means. Right?
Yeah. What better way to do it than build it? And then
build it,
it,
understand it, learn it. That is your best way, always, I think.
Yeah. And then we have the second audience question from Mariana. How is AI changing tech careers and what to do to stay up to date?
I can't even stay up to date. I'm spending, my days looking at this stuff as much as possible. I learn something new from our team every day, and I find it quite fascinating. So what can you do? In times of high technological change, you're going to have to set some dedicated time to going and learning and trying. And so today I would, if you have not subscribed to TLDR, for example, there's a bunch of newsletters that you can get every day, which has specific news articles and things that are happening. That would be one. I would set up actually you could probably even vibe code an application to go search for the information that you need. You can do all sorts, whatever way that can get the information to you in a way that you can actually digest it. I would definitely try to learn and keep up on it and try to understand what people are saying, which is not always that easy, frankly. So that's one thing I would definitely do. And the other one is just to keep doing and trying. That's the best way. Yeah. Always.
All right. And finally, well, not finally, but like second finally. We're nearing the end of this episode, so no worries about that. But like, if listeners were to remember 1 to 3 things about this whole conversation, what would you like those to be? Like, what are the key points that you want to leave with people?
You can do anything that you put your mind to it. You just have to get up in the morning and and take one step at a time. And the first thing you have to do is just put one foot in front of you and do it. In the end, you are kind of like the Hobbit. You are like Bilbo in the Hobbit. You put one foot in front and you go on an adventure. It is perfectly fine. You will always want to go back to your Hobbit hole, but there is things to learn and wonderful things to see in the world that includes the career that you can build for yourself. Number 2, you build your career. Nobody I know, whether they're successful or not successful, well, especially when they're successful. I'll give you a story. We had this will be on my podcast as well, so you can edit this part out. But either way, let me give you a story. We had, I'm also part of the Shortcut. I'm on the board of the Shortcut here in Helsinki. And we had a bunch of people come to our office, and we had some amazing people from our Supermetrics team talk to them. And every single person asked, what was your origin story? Not a single person in that 5-6 people had actually studied the thing they were working on. But every other person in our organization thought the other person had. Don't assume that you need to know all the different things in order to be that person. None of us do. And that's the number 2. And the last is just curiosity and passion.
I love it. And now, for real, finally, where can people find you if they follow you for more insights or?
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn anytime. I have a very unique name, which means you can find me on the web very easily. One thing I will say is that don't ask me for advice. I do not give advice. I don't believe anyone's advice is that useful, frankly. But I will happily talk to you about different things, and that's perfectly fine. So you can ask me questions. You can also find me on my podcast. I do have a podcast. It is about many different things and different people. It is all about stories that people tell and stories of people. So it's called Tales Under the Cat Tree, and that's at tales.dups.ca.
Lovely. Hey, thank you so much for your time and insights. Totally not advice. And it's been a pleasure to have you. And for our listeners, next time we'll be sitting down to get the scoop on how you can take active control over integrating yourself into the Finnish society. A task easier said than done. And helping us decode that will be Mari Juht, the founder of Intero Integration. So we'll catch you at the next episode of Sisu Slay. Thank you for today.
Thank you for having me.